Walking down Bandera Road in present-day Leon Valley, Texas, there's a piece of the 1800s that still exists, and that is the Huebner-Onion Homestead. The homestead simply got its name because two families lived here at one point, the Hebner family and the Onion family. In this video, I'm going to walk around the property, share some information that I found about this place, and, of course, show you all a grave. So let's get started. When you walk on the property, you're greeted with this Texas historical landmarker. Feel free to pause the video and read it in its entirety if you wish, but I'm going to go ahead and sum everything up for you here. So in 1853, a man by the name of Joseph Heubner and his wife Caroline and two kids, Anna and Frank, moved to San Antonio from Austria. In 1858, Hebner buys this property, which at the time was 200 acres, and builds a 12 by 12 foot limestone living area, which we'll see in just a moment. In 1859, Joseph purchases more land, giving him a grand total of 850 acres. He also purchases herds of horses, mules, and cattle. In 1862, he builds his limestone home, which you see behind this sign here. With all the land that he had, he decided to make a stagecoach stop area for the people who were traveling to and from San Antonio. He would provide services such as livestock change, overnight stays, and blacksmith services. In 1882, Joseph Heubner dies a mysterious death. His family continues to run the property up until 1930, when Judge John Onion and his wife Harriet and two children, John Jr. and James, moved to the homestead. The Onion family lived in this homestead up until 1983 when Harriet died. After that, the home remained abandoned. Now, I wanted to do more research on the Hebner family. However, this is the only thing that came up in old news articles, and this dates back to January 6, 1920, where it shows 94-year-old Caroline Hebner, who was the widow of Joseph Heubner, seated in the middle of the screen here. There are 5 generations of Hebners in this photo, dating back from Caroline herself all the way up to her great-great-great-grandchild. The article talks about Joseph Heubner, who was known to locals as Doc Hebner. He was a jeweler and a silversmith with Bell Jewelry Company in San Antonio, where he doctored watches and mended and tinkered with jewelry. It mentions that in 1859 he went to Mexico to purchase some cattle, and on the way back home he was stampeded by Native Americans. They took all of his cattle, but luckily he made it home safe. Lastly, it mentions that sometime after Joseph's death in 1882, the Hebner family moved out of the homestead and into a new home on 307 Nolan Street, which doesn't even exist today. As I mentioned earlier, the last occupant of this homestead, Harriet Onion, died in 1983. Since then, the home sat vacant and decaying. In 1999, a hotel company purchases the land, and the following year they build a hotel right next to the homestead. The hotel company had plans on demolishing the old homestead until the Leon Valley Historical Society and residents of Leon Valley spoke against it. The hotel company decides to donate the home and half an acre of land on the condition that the city purchases 36 acres of land back from the hotel company for a total of $350,000, which the city eventually does. Throughout the years, Leon Valley had many fundraisers and generous donations to help them bring back the homestead to what it looked like in the 1800s. So after all that info, let's go ahead and take a closer look of the Huebner-Onion Homestead. Now, according to an article I read, the home was originally a one-story home, and in 1882, the second floor, the patio, and the upper deck was built sometime before Joseph Heubner passed away. The bump out that you see on the side of the house here is an addition that the Onion family made sometime in the 1930s. The addition included a dining room, a kitchen, and a mudroom. Behind the homestead is the 12 by 12 foot limestone living area that was built in 1858. Now, I'm not sure if Joseph and his wife and two kids lived here because it's so small, but after the home was completed in 1862, this was made into a cooking area. The machine that you see here is a sorghum cane press that was used to make molasses. Here is an example of how the machine was used back in the olden days. Now, this wooden box here, I don't know if it had any significance, but I couldn't see through the window. It was totally dirty, and the box wouldn't open up, so I'm not sure what it is, and if you know what it is, please let me know. Off to the side of the house are these two wooden structures. Now, the area that we're looking at here might have been used as a stable to put horses, mules, or cattle in. Here you can see an old sign that was used back when they were trying to raise money to restore the property. This old wooden structure here, I believe, was used as a chicken or pigeon coop. Now we are going to make our way to visit the grave of Joseph Heubner himself. Behind the Huebner-Onion Homestead is the Huebner-Onion Natural Area Park. When you walk through this area, you're greeted with many deer along the way. Now, I myself have never been to this park before, and I was looking, like I mentioned, for the grave of Joseph Heubner. And along the way, it was really fun to walk through this park and see nature and its beauty. After walking this long, narrow dirt path, I finally saw something that resembled a gravesite. When you walk up to the grave of Joseph Heubner, you are greeted with this Leon Valley Historic Texas Cemetery landmarker. While reading this sign, it says that it's widely believed that Joseph Heubner is buried at this site. And the reason why they put this is because there's no description on the grave marker at all, which you'll see in just a moment. Legend has it that Joseph Heubner died after drinking one night and mistakenly grabbing a bottle of kerosene that he thought was whiskey. Shortly thereafter, he passed away and he was buried near his homestead, which is the grave site that you see in front of you here. Thanks to generous donations, the gravesite was restored with this new wrought iron fence and the grave marker being restored to what it looked like prior to vandalism and decay. This obelisk-shaped monument had no writing or description at all. I looked at all four sides and couldn't make out a single letter. But, in my opinion, it is safe to assume that Joseph Heubner is buried here. As I mentioned before, it was really hard to find information about Joseph Heubner, so I'm sorry in advance if I can't provide a picture of Joseph Heubner himself. Caroline Hebner, Joseph's wife, died in 1923 and is buried in a cemetery in San Antonio, Texas. Their 2 children are buried in San Antonio as well. And that concludes our tour of the Huebner-Onion Homestead and the grave of Joseph Heubner. Please let me know what you think in the comment section below, and as always, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram to keep up to date with future videos or any additional information about cemeteries, historic places, or abandoned buildings that are in San Antonio, Texas. Thanks for watching.